We go to the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Meehan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nordstrom, you made a comment, complete and total absence of planning. Lieutenant Colonel Wood, you were brought in the first place to the country, part of a team that was in place to both be responsive but to provide security. One of 3 teams of 16 people associated with the Department of Defense, not coming from the budget of Mrs. Lamb, nonetheless providing. And I see a tale of 2 cities, that while you are have that kind of force early on in the process, notwithstanding your requests, continuously that group is worked down from 3 teams to finally 1 team towards the end instead of 16, your final request in which it is 8. At the same time, we see a worsening of the circumstances. I see this is a draft from Joan Polishek in February of the month. Overall security conditions continue to be unpredictable. Large armed groups not under the control of the central government. The continued presence of security support teams was essential to provide static security in the absence of an appropriate local guard force. Now, we saw with a litany of issues, the IED thrown into the diplomatic post in Benghazi, the RPG attack in the Red Cross, the IED attack, a second one on the, we see a litany. Colonel Wood, was there the capacity to be able to provide the kind of security that you thought was necessary while things continued to get worse?
Yes, sir. I thought that was the genius behind the design and construct of the SST. It brought all the elements of government power together for the embassy, the diplomatic, the informational, military, and economic. It gave them the military side of that governmental power that we could project abroad. It gave them the expertise of some of the finest quality soldiers in the world and the backup resources that they could tap into at SOC Africa and AFRICOM as well, to provide them with all the intelligence and additional capabilities. Why they would turn that asset down is answered by themselves.
Let me ask you about this process called normalization. There was an effort during this period of time as well to transition from people who were trained here by the United States, our soldiers, et cetera, who were in country, and to transition to trained locals, largely Libyans. As I understand it, there was a posting that would be put out where they just asked for people to apply for those positions. You were there. Part of your responsibility was to train those locals to be able to do the work that they, from your professional opinion, were there sufficient numbers sufficiently trained to be able to provide the kind of security that should have been necessary in the circumstances?
Sir, I think Eric Nordstrom can back me up on this. The individuals that were trained were local Libyans that we had hired. Indeed, you're correct that way. The SST participated with MSD in training some of those individuals, but the caliber and quality, I think, was subject. I can see where they're dealing with numbers on this end of the table. Adding up numbers on a piece of paper, I think it reflects from the description of the Benghazi compound not being accurate in the fact that the RSO and security agents there had to sleep with their weapons, with the secure communications. They didn't have a complete understanding of how difficult it was, or failed to recognize that.
Ms. Lamb, why your response that this needs to be something in which these professionals need to be replaced by locals who, by a professional opinion, aren't sufficiently trained to do the work?
Sir, this is the same model that we used in Sinai, and very successful. These trained guards protected.
Did you take any time to listen to the reports that were coming up during the period of time that the events were getting worse? Not the same model, but was there specific attention paid to the events in country?
Yes, and at the same time, Post had reduced their travel policy. Instead of moving with full motorcades, they were allowing personnel to go out with an embassy driver in a hard car. So the positions that were being filled by this team and by our team members had been reduced. They were using a quick reaction force that was available for multiple people to be moving with drivers, and it reduced the numbers that were needed at post. When asked to do a function earlier in his testimony today, Eric Nordstrom cited the fact that he had requested 12 armed plus 6 more. In essence, we had actually worked out with his desk officer. They had outlined a program that he needed 21 armed security personnel. We had made a commitment from Washington that we would provide him with 23. It has not dropped below that number since that commitment was made.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one just additional question, not in response?
Briefly.
Reports came. Mr. Ambassador Kennedy, reports have been made, public reports, in which it has been stated that the imprisoned Ammar Abdul Rahman brigades, this was on CNN, is believed to have possibly been one of the groups that is suspected of carrying out these terrorist attacks. CNN has reported that. Are you aware of any determinations at this point in time in which there's been any discussions within the State Department for the potential transfer or release of the Brian Sheikh American security?
I am unaware of any such discussion, sir.
It says the State Department, this was in September, the State Department said that the topic had not come recently from any senior official in Egyptian authorities. So you're aware of no discussions whatsoever that involve the State Department for any kind of a transfer or release of the Brian Sheikh from incarceration or otherwise?
That is correct, sir. I am unaware of any such discussion.
Are you prepared on behalf of the State Department to make an unequivocal statement that there will not be a release of Abdul Rahman?
I'm not going to appear to avoid that question, sir, but I am the Undersecretary of State for Management. I have a series of responsibilities, and that is a question I'll be glad to take for the record to get a complete and State Department position for you.
I thank the gentleman. Mr. Nordstrom, you were trying to answer the previous question. Do you want to respond on that?
Yeah, I would like to actually, if I could, make a couple of points on that. Das Lamb mentioned that we had shifted to a, quote, lesser security profile. I would like to point out that that was done in March. That was done because we had 18 DS agents, and we were told that it was going to move to 12. 3 MSD teams down to 2 MSD teams. There's an emergency action cable dated in March that specifically references that, and if I recall, in general recollection, that the tone of that was that since we had no choice, because we did not have the assets, we had no other option but to move to a model not unlike in basketball, moving from man-to-man defense to a zone defense. So I think that's an important point to make. The other point that was made earlier about the reduction of SST, 6 persons, that's something that Colonel Wood could back me up on as well. Those 6 SST did not leave country. Those 6 SST were still there on compound, could provide us internal defense support. What they were doing was involved in training and liaison with Libyan special forces. Now, why were we doing that? Because as I've testified before, we had absolutely no ability to call upon a host nation force in the event that we were attacked. Our conclusion was the Libyan special forces was one such force that we might be able to count on. So we saw that very much as bolstering our internal defense and our footprint.
And Mr. Nordstrom, we placed in front of you something that a different whistleblower gave us. Is that the document you're referring to on May 28th?
This was
March 28th, I'm sorry.
This was the specific one in terms of a follow-up for support, but there was an earlier document in March where we adjusted our movement transportation because we simply would not have the bodies to provide a security agent in each vehicle.
Thank you. Ambassador Kennedy, I'd now